Guys, we are episode 18 of the Four Lifters by Lifters podcast, and this week we have Collin Whitney, owner of PWRBLD, and was it Whitney Strength?
Yeah, Whitney Strength Performance is like the coaching aspect. Yeah.
Coaching. They're two separate businesses?
Yeah, started with like the coaching, and then the PWRBLD gym came later.
Okay. So I think the first thing would be like to dig into your background a little bit. I know you were military.
Yep. So I did Air Force Reserves. Did that for like 5.5 years. Yeah, it was good for the time I was in it. Yeah. Aircraft structural maintenance. Went in for reserves. I was thinking, get some schooling, just get out of the town I was in. I'm from Schuylkill County, so I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with that, but not a whole lot going on. So, way to get out, do something different. Knew I wanted to go to school or something afterwards. So, yeah, it was good. Good experiences, learned a lot. But, yeah, got into school, Penn State Berks after that. Did like 2.5 years. I did Kines, then I switched to criminal justice. All while I did like personal training certifications and stuff like that. I started doing that like years prior. And then, then I dropped out of school, just started working full time. I was working full time the entire time I was in school as well. But yeah, and then we just kind of got into the whole coaching and powerlifting thing, and here we are. But
I have a friend with I graduated from Penn State, and I have a friend with a 5-year Kines degree, and I moved to California after college, and he didn't have anything going on, so he's like, I'll move out there. All right. And he went around looking for jobs, and they're like, your degree is the equivalent of a personal training certificate.
Yeah.
And he was in $120,000 worth of debt, so them saying that to him just absolutely crushed him.
Yeah. No, and that's what I was like talking to a lot of people, because at this point, I was already like training a good, like not a ton of clients, probably had like 15 or 20, but school was almost like hindering how many people I could handle. And
yeah,
I was just like, the Kines degree, what am I going to do with that? It was just, I was kind of spread thin at that point too. So just put all my chips on the training table and just kept working. I was like a GNC manager, just kind of doing that whole thing for a little while. But
you can actually make pretty good money doing that.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, nice thing for me, it was like, you're in GNC, people are coming in there, you're talking about supplements and training, leads into, potential clients. That's kind of how a lot of it started rolling. And then also like being at Warhouse Gym, a lot of people, are into it there. So, or were maybe.
Yeah, I feel like the timing for you was pretty good with that.
Yeah.
So you did coach Dana Linn Bailey, right?
Yeah. So I worked with Dana when she did her powerlifting for like that year and a half or so, because I came really good friends with Austin, so he's like their right-hand man.
Okay.
And he was getting into training. She was kind of like falling out of the bodybuilding thing, just not taking it as serious, competitively. Still training, obviously, but, she's competitive, so once she's seen kind of us getting into the competitions, she wanted to do the same thing, so I helped her out for a little while. She did well for just kind of jumping in, but
what do you do with somebody that has a bodybuilding background like that and they want to powerlift?
They're easy because like they already have like the high work capacity. I mean, most of them know their body really well, so when you're giving them cues or any type of like, technical advice, like it makes sense to them. Takes like a session and they're like, yeah, it's good. So that's the nice thing. Like, anyone who's bodybuilding or any just type of like athlete, it's usually pretty easy.
Yeah. She did well, right?
She did, yeah. Her first meet she did, it was local. She won like best lifter. I forget like some of the numbers, but 300 some squat, 200 bench, mid threes on deadlift. And I mean, she qualified, so she went to nationals, and then through nationals qualified for the Arnold. So in the USAPL, I mean, those are like the two biggest meets. Like getting the Raw nationals, pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then the Arnold's actually pretty tough to qualify for, and she did that her first time. So
yeah, some people just have it like that. You can tell even with her bodybuilding, it was so fast for her to get to the top. So
yeah, she was just an athlete. I think she's college soccer. So
but I feel
translates.
like her coaching you kind of you coaching her kind of like put you on the map a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we knew who you were,
Yep.
just from social media and that kind of stuff. All right, so you did coaching and stuff at Warhouse for a couple years?
Yeah. So, well, at first I just trained, and then that's how, met a lot of clients and kind of through just training there myself. And then eventually I was managing it year and a half or so. Again, that's where I kind of like more clients. I'm there every day, all day. So
Yeah.
more and more people were coming through. Powerlifting at that time there was like, that's how it kind of like took over for a little while.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. But, yeah.
So that's where you learned how to run a gym?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ton of good experience there. Obviously, Warhouse is a big, I don't know if anyone, you've been there, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I actually haven't.
Really?
No, have you been there? No.
It's big. It's like commercial sized, but it's like, kind of like powerlifting, like hardcore bodybuilding. So, very cool, but also so much goes wrong. So you figure out along the way, like all the do's and don'ts. So now like transitioning into my own, I mean, it's like a walk in the park. Yeah. Initially is a little different because I like started it, but
right.
Now it's just like the management and everything like that is super easy. So yeah, great experience for sure.
Outside of coronavirus, I feel like you came into the gym scene at such a great time. Yeah, the corporate stuff's finally starting to correct itself, I feel like. People are starting to walk away from that environment, and they realize it's not really conducive for building a strong strong body or a great physique.
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of bait and switch in there for the last 15 years, and so we're seeing a lot of people leave the big corporate stuff and go to the smaller private gyms. The community's better, the competitiveness is a lot better. So I feel like it was good timing for you.
Yeah. I think like the smaller niche gyms are starting to pop up more and more and like have success.
Yeah.
People, like they're realizing if you really want to succeed in whether it's bodybuilding or powerlifting, being in the environment, that's appropriate for that makes a huge difference. I mean, you just walk in an LA Fitness and it's just like crickets. It's like you're afraid to even like speak aloud, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not to mention, it's just, I don't know. The equipment, if you're, I hate to be like the powerlifter who needs like all the certain equipment, but at this point, you get spoiled. You're like, you want the certain, the power bars and the kilo plates and the combo racks and like commercial gyms. I mean, they have what they have. You know what I mean? It's not like you can't train the right way in there. It's just not optimal, I guess you could say.
Yeah. Plus, like, on the previous podcast, we were talking like West Side versus like regular training, and my argument is it's not really the training methodologies, but it's the environment.
Yeah.
Right, and how important that is.
Yep.
And you can't get that at LA Fitness, and even if you try to duplicate it there, they're gonna kick you out.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't want it there. So I think just surrounding yourself with the right people. I mean, at least every day in our gym, it's like I feel not quite like a meet day, but somewhat similar. Like it's just like the energy. That's what I was trying to tell everyone. It's just like there's just different energy here.
It almost looks like you guys are having like a party.
Yeah, all the time.
Like a lifting party.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's like it feels like you're almost, it has that team aspect because like if you just walk through those doors, you're all on the team essentially. So everyone's like rooting for you. If you need to work in with somebody, you can work in with somebody. If you need to spot, there's a handful of people in there that are willing to do so. So just, I don't know, the energy, it's cohesive. It's
I assume that was your goal from like
Yeah.
day one, right?
Yeah, I mean, because that's what we had at Warhouse at one time. It was just like an energy in there. It, kind of went away as things kind of unfold, but yeah, it was definitely, because I know like that's what makes the difference between like my gym and any other gym. Because like there's a lot of like potentially cool gyms with like good equipment and this and that. So to separate yourself, there has to be like that element that it has to be like organic. You can't just like buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you were building out your gym, what was some of the stuff that you knew you wanted in there?
I knew I wanted to obviously have like the competition powerlifting equipment, just because looking around the area, there was only like really one other gym, like Dan's, and he's like in Philly, that has, combo racks, kilo plates, competition bars. So I knew like that would be one thing that would separate us from a lot of other gyms, because like there's some other smaller niche like strength training. I don't know. They almost like seem like strongman CrossFit in the area.
Might be more athletic training.
Yeah, like athletic training, but like powerlifting wise, like I know just even having a few combo racks, kilo plates, all the right bars, like that alone is going to grab the attention of like the powerlifting community. And then I also wanted to have, some machines like the hammer strength stuff, like all of the stuff that like if you're a hardcore bodybuilder, like you're going to be looking for, because that's kind of how I started. I was like not competitive bodybuilding, but like that was what I thought I was going to do. It's initially what I got into.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure like we could support both. Obviously I lean a little bit more towards the powerlifting, and that's kind of where the gym's gravitated towards. But just after you've been around certain gyms and been training for so long, like there's just like certain pieces. So I got the powerlifting stuff like to start, like a lot of that was new, like just on rogue. I got what I was going to get. But then like after that I would like scan Facebook Marketplace every day, all day. I was like, I think I have like a equipment addiction, because like, there's like certain pieces that you like maybe have used throughout your time training. You're like, I need that here. So I would like just pick and choose. And that's also just like, I think smart. And like, that's the way we had to do it. Money wise, it's like, I didn't have help. So it was just like slowly adding pieces along the way and like building the gym up to where it is now, where it's like maximize like every square inch. Can't fit anything else in it, which is, is what it is.
Can you bodybuild in there? Like, do you have anybody that?
Oh yeah. Like we actually had a kid, his name's Alex Toplin. He's a monster.
Oh yeah. He just turned pro.
Just turned IFBB pro. He contacted us like right as we had opened up. I probably made like a video on Instagram, and like email exploded with like people trying to get in, because like if you're a serious lifter, like the gym shutting down thing was like the worst thing that could happen. And he was, I guess, like middle of prep, gym shut down on him. So like we got him in there, and then he ended up being able to train literally throughout like almost his whole prep. I think there was a few weeks there where he wasn't able to, but like he got his IFBB pro card, and like a majority of his training was at PowerBuild and I think another gym nearby. But I don't know. We've had quite a few like competitive bodybuilders, male and female, that train there. So it's been pretty cool, like starting to see like some people on both sides, because originally it was very powerlifting dominant. Now there's like starting to be like that nice blend, that was the goal. So
I mean, that's the name of your
business.
Yeah,
exactly. The whole idea behind the brand. But it's been cool.
It's funny, like if you were to open a powerlifting gym probably 10 years ago, you probably would have been open for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Because it was just a dead sport.
Yep.
And then I guess in like 2012, 13, 14, like those 3 years, all of a sudden the raw lifting just exploded. Because prior to then, if you were a powerlifter, you didn't really lift raw.
Yeah.
For USAPL, it was single ply. And, for all the other federations, it was multiply. There wasn't a ton of raw stuff, and then it just exploded then, and I feel like you caught it at the right curve.
Yeah.
And I don't see it slowing down anytime soon.
No, it's been booming. That was kind of because when I first started training, this is like 2008. Powerlifting was like, I just remember like seeing like big tattooed biker looking dudes and like weird singlets like that seemed too tight. And then as years went on, it started becoming like a little bit more popular, where people were just like lifting heavy but without the gear. And that's when like I was like, oh, okay, like because you're already like trying to lift heavy anyway, even if you're like bodybuilding, like everyone wants to lift heavy. But I think like 12, 13 is when I started like seeing like powerlifting transition to like more raw, and that's 100% like when it started booming. Once people felt like they could do it in any gym and like they could do it on their own, because like most people are looking at the equipment these guys are in, like they never even seen it before, so it just doesn't really catch your interest. So I think 12, 13 is when I started getting into it. I think I was like in the military at that time. I was in like Pensacola, Florida. They had a base or they had a gym on base. It was all like Marines, because Pensacola was like Navy base and Marines. So I was just in there, and like a lot of those guys were like lifting heavy. So that's what like got me into like, I didn't even like deadlift until then. I like trained for 5 years before I like really deadlifted. So it's funny how that works. It's like my best lift now. But Yeah, and then because 2015 was the first nationals I did, so that was the year that I really got into powerlifting. I did like 4 meets. I just started like jumping in every meet, and then like I feel like ever since then it's just been booming. Every
Yeah.
year it's bigger,
But
more people doing it.
I think people are starting to look back too, and they look back at the old school bodybuilders, and they're like, "Wow, these guys did powerlifting meets, and
Oh
they,
yeah,
they trained kind of like powerlifters."
yeah.
So maybe there's some type of hybrid there that people are missing because they tended to separate the two things too much.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think if you like watch pumping iron and stuff like that, man, like they're in there squatting heavy, like obviously doing a little bit more reps, but like benching heavy. If you like look into like Arnold's training, like he used to do like, heavy bench. Like I think he benched like 500 pounds. Like, and he had what's his name, the little dude, Columbo. Yeah, he was a monster, like strongman, power lifter, like everything. And yeah, if you look at those guys, like how they're built, you see some of these like newer powerlifters, like they kind of have that like classic bodybuilder look, and they're strong as hell.
Yeah.
So, and then I think that's also one of the big reasons for the popularity. Like people, younger kids seeing like, oh, I can be jacked and strong. So that, along with like females getting in, and then now it's just like out of control. It's just there's as many females competing at meets as there is males almost. So
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like if you're a female figure competitor, especially if it's natural,
yep,
the best thing you could do is probably powerlift.
yeah,
Because it builds all the right muscles for them to compete in figure.
yeah, yeah. You see a lot of them kind of transition too, and they do really well.
Yeah.
Whether it's like one or the other. So yeah, makes sense. And it's, again, I think it's also just like being able to do it. You like anyone can do it now. You don't need like 4 guys to help you into a suit. So
Yeah.
it's just more accessible. And yeah, I don't know. I don't see it slowing down, because I remember a few years ago there's like, yeah, people are like, it's gonna like kind of like slow up. It hasn't, not even close.
No,
So.
I remember. I guess it was Raw National. It might have been 2015. Was that the one that was in Scranton?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was the biggest one of all time. It was like
1,000 people or something.
I think it was 1,100 people.
Yeah.
And they had the 3 platforms.
Yep.
Ray was there.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
This is the first. Yeah, that was like my first like big meet. Like I was like looking around at like guys I was following on Instagram at that point. It was like Bryce Lewis, I think Garrett Blevins. There was a few other guys. I was like, oh, that's them. Jesse Norris was like kind of like on the come up, like freak of nature.
He was there, right?
Yeah. He
I think Lane Norton was there too.
Lane was there. Yeah, that was like, I think Jesse won, I think, right? Like, even though he got kind of a bunch of like weird calls, but or no, and then that's right. That was the year he like tested for the craze, the pre-workout, I think.
I think it was.
So then Lane ended up going to Worlds anyway. He's a madman. But
we sound like old men.
I know. No, it's crazy when I like talk to somebody who's like been in it a while. I'm like, damn, I've been in this a little while now, like 2015. I think back to like some of the people that were even there, and I'm like, most of them aren't around. Like Bryce is still around. Garrett's, I think, still around. I don't know what he's doing.
Is Bryce the TSA guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Joey Franzo, Joey Flex.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys I remember like talking to way back in the day, like on Instagram. Like he was like an Instagram buddy. We both were on like kind of the come up at the same time. And, like his stuff's exploded.
Yeah.
He's been killing it. So yeah, it's wild now. But
have you ever trained in any gear? We talked about it a
no,
little bit.
I honestly just like never. I don't know. I was never into the idea of like using something that helped me do something I couldn't do without it.
Yeah.
Like belt, wrist wraps, knee sleeves are like one thing, but once you start doing like wraps, and I wouldn't even try getting in a suit. Just seeing other guys struggle, I'm like, I don't want to do that. But to each their own. I have nothing against it. Like we had some people in the gym that were doing it. Looks interesting. It just honestly looks like too much work. Like I like throwing knee sleeves on, belt. Let's go. Like
I got conned into it. So I wanted to join the powerlifting team.
Yeah.
And in order to compete, there wasn't a raw. So it had to be single ply. I'm like, well, I'm kind of competitive, so I want to compete. So I went from like 193 pounds, like real lean. Like I looked good, like I was doing mostly bodybuilding training. And then I started, the gear lifting, and it would take me 2 hours to get in one squat.
Yeah.
And then my body composition started to change. I got fatter, and you just go down that vicious rabbit hole. And although I enjoyed the competitive aspect of it, my biggest regret is actually ever going into gear. I just feel like it was a lot of wasted time, and it didn't fully translate to raw movements. I squatted 700 pounds in single ply at 198 pounds, and I wasn't a very good raw squatter at all. So
I don't see it translate quite as much. There is a few guys, but it doesn't seem to transfer. Like, I don't know, some people are like, oh, I'm going to get used to handling this heavy weight. Maybe, I don't know. Like, there's the only one guy I can think of is, and he's like a lighter lifter, the Charles Opaku. I don't know. He's a USAPL kid. He like crushed it in like single ply for years and years, and then came over to Raw, and I don't know if he won Raw Nationals his first year, or maybe it was like right there, which was pretty impressive because like everyone's like, oh, let's see how he does. And I know he did well, but that's like the only guy I could think of that really transitioned well.
The only argument that I like for it is Donnie Thompson often argues that if you squat in briefs, it'll probably save your hips for the long run. Yeah. And you and I haven't been doing it for 30 years, right? So we don't know what our hips are going to look like, by then. And, so I respect his argument there.
Oh, yeah.
But outside of that, like bench shirts, I think are useless. I hate them.
I feel like it changes everything. You know what I mean? It's just different.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just they're so different in my opinion. I don't know. But I haven't tried it enough to really speak on it too much. That's why I just,
Do you use like slingshots at all?
Yeah, I will mess around with them. Like, I definitely think there's a benefit to having, that overload aspect and just handling heavier weight, because I feel like with the slingshot you can still stay in the same like movement pattern. Like, it changes it a little bit, but once you get kind of the hang of it, you can. And if you're not going, I also only use like the first like levels of the slingshot. I don't even really mess around. We have like the black one, which is like, it feels like you could bench the world in it, but like I usually only use like the blue or the red. I think they give you maybe like 10 to 20% between them. I don't know, and it feels like somewhat natural still.
Yeah,
I do like using them here and there.
You don't think it's weird that you'll use a slingshot but not knee wraps?
Well, I've honestly, like, knee wraps I've wanted to maybe like experiment with, because again, like the overloading factor, and it's not changing as much. I think it's just one of those things I just like I was never like really around like the right group to like have them like show me how to wrap like the right way, because I know there's like little technique to it, and it just never kind of happened. But I wouldn't be like opposed to trying it, because I do know I've had some guys that have done knee wraps, like they were raw like sleeves, then they went knee wraps for a while, went back to sleeves, and their sleeve squat was significantly better. Yeah. So I think there is definitely a transfer there, just from handling like heavier loads. But I don't know.
I've always found, so when I squatted in wraps, I could squat 600 pounds, and then with the full suit, I got another 100 pounds. Mm-hmm. But I always found that wrapping a knee, it's not really like the spring effect that helped me, but it would block my knees from traveling forwards, and I was able to load the posterior chain better. Yeah. And it feels completely different, because you can actually feel everything loading up so much more, and then you can kind of memorize that feeling, so when you squat raw, you can try to mimic it.
So. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. I had to give it a shot at some point.
It's worth it, especially like a 2-meter wrap. Where you're not dealing with the the 3-meter and all that crazy stuff that the multiply guys use. Yeah, use something simple that the USAPL.
Yeah. I just like to feel kind of the difference, really, just to get a feel, just for like personal experience. But I just never really had the opportunity. Yeah, had to try it.
So you competed, I guess, lifetime in USAPL.
First 2 meets were RPS.
Okay.
Just didn't really know any better. They were like in Lancaster, I was in Reading, so I'm like, let's do these. I think I seen somebody in the gym wearing an RPS shirt, so I like looked it up. I ended up signing up for like my first 2. I did them literally like 6-8 weeks apart. Then realized, oh wait, like USAPL has this big meet coming up, so I had to jump in a USAPL meet like 4 weeks after that. So, and that was like the last chance qualifier, and then the Raw Nationals was like 5 weeks after that. So I did like 4 meets in like a 4-month span. It was the stupidest thing ever. Didn't know any better though. And then after that, it was all USAPL. Yeah.
Was there? I mean, I like the USAPL.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate the USAPL.
Yeah.
I like the standards of it. I like the standards of the equipment. I like the fact that when you go into a meet, you may know the judges, but they don't really care about you.
No, they definitely
not
don't.
That second that you're on the platform.
Definitely not.
But you do USPA meets now, right?
I haven't competed USPA. The gym's had a USPA meet there. A lot of the lifters in the gym are They're actually, it's probably split, USAPL, USPA. I feel like maybe they're leaning a little bit more USPA now because we just had one there.
Yeah.
But and I'm a fan, like USAPL. Like I've had a lot of experiences where I like leave kind of like a little bit with a bad taste in my mouth, just because like sometimes, I don't know, I feel like they just do some weird things sometimes that seem unnecessary. Just like, I don't know, a lifter's going out and it's like his wrist wrap is like a 1/4 inch too high. It's like, just tell him after his like opener and then he'll fix it for the next one. Like, it's not going to affect his squat at all. You know what I mean? It's like, come on. And then just like certain times, it's like, I mean, I've seen some like lifters get robbed. Like, I make sure every time a lifter goes up, like I sit next to the judge at like pretty much at their eye level. And some of them I've seen just get robbed. I mean, like they buried a squat and it's just, I don't know what it is sometimes. It's just, and it's like human error. And for the most part, though, I'm the same way. Like, I like that they have like the stricter standards. For the most part, you know what you're walking into on meet day, regardless of who the judges are.
Yeah.
So I do like that, and I would rather there be like stricter standards and more lenient standards. Like, again, RPS. You watch an RPS meet, man, it's all over the place. Like, not to bash them. It's great that they run like all the meets that they do, but like the standards are up and down. It just is what it is. And then, USPA, from what I found so far, because at first I didn't have a lot of experience there. A lot of my lifters were USAPL. So going into the USPA meets, I've just been really impressed, like coaching and handling. And then, even seeing like they just had their tested nationals, and like considering circumstances right now, like I was just impressed that for one, they had it.
Yeah.
And then it ran pretty damn smooth. Like it was 2 platforms. They had like the warm-up areas separated, which was nice. Like it was just, it ran really well from like seeing how the USAPL does it and then how the USPA. Like I was pretty impressed because like it didn't look like the USPA had like a huge group of people helping. I'm sure they were like somewhat short-staffed with everything going on. And like they pulled off a really like smooth national level meet. So yeah, I only have like good things to say about USPA as of now. So
I did my first meet in November.
Yeah.
This past November with them, and it was my first meet in like 4 years or something. I was just doing it because the guys I was coaching they were doing it.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just jump in with you guys, and I think his name was Adam Furchin that ran it.
Mm-hmm.
The same guy that ran the one that
he was there, I think, but he's like the New York, I think, state rep, and like
I think so.
I think he's like just the Northeast guy now.
Yeah, this was in North Jersey. The meet was long. It was a single platform meet. But outside of that, I thought everything was awesome.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's almost the same equipment as the USAPL,
Mm-hmm.
but you get the deadlift bar and the squat bar.
Yeah.
And those two things just make a world of difference, especially for a guy like me that's short. And when I'm over 200 pounds, my hands get real like fluffy.
Yeah.
Like I can't grab a stiff bar as well.
Yeah.
And it makes a world of difference for my deadlift.
No, yeah, I agree. That's how I've been having fun with, the squat bar. It definitely feels a little different. I don't know if there's really like a huge benefit to it. I don't know. I know some guys like it more, some less. I know girls tend to, I think, like they're not really the biggest fan. It's kind of awkward for them.
It matters where you place it.
Yeah.
Like if it's high bar, it feels better. If
Yeah.
you try to low bar with the squat bar, I feel like it doesn't feel as good.
It definitely doesn't seem like it's like sinking in quite how you want it. And I've only been using it for like the last couple months. I have had it roll a little bit on me, but I think that'll improve as you get, more comfortable with it. The deadlift bar though is fun. Like I've messed with one every once in a while back in the day, just to like see what I can pull.
It's an ego thing.
Yeah. But yeah, it's been good like getting used to actually like, because it's different. power bar to a deadlift bar when you're deadlifting, like there's definitely a difference. You got to almost learn how to use the deadlift bar to make it an advantage, I think. Everyone thinks you're just going to pull with it and you're going to be like you're going to hit more weight. Not always the case. When I first went to the deadlift bar, like I felt off. Like it felt weird. I was like, the whip was like killing me halfway up, and I was almost like feeling worse. But once you get the hang of it, definitely I think a little bit of an advantage. So yeah, I do like that aspect to it. Biggest thing too is like USAPL. The one thing you count on is like consistency as far as like equipment and stuff like that. I feel like USPA, they've done a good job, at least with my experience. Like you show up and it's like, it's going to be like combo racks, like, the right bars. Whereas like, I don't know, sometimes like, you don't know, like the other federations, like you don't even know what you're walking into. Like you see them in a power rack sometimes, like it's the strangest thing. So, and I think like having consistency across the board is like helpful just for the sport in general. That like makes it, I don't know, more like, I think mainstream if people know what they're looking at,
and you can feel comfortable traveling for meets if you know you're going to get the same equipment everywhere you go.
Exactly.
The same opportunity.
Yep.
We had Brian Reed on the one we just released, and he owns VIP, if you've heard of that.
I think
gym.
I've heard of it.
It's more of like they're West Side certified. They have 3 monoliths up there. That's their, they're multiply mostly. But he was talking about how he did an RPS meet, and he was warming up with like a really good bar, and he felt good. And he went over to the competition bar on his first attempt, and his hands kept slipping because it was a completely different bar. And he ended up, so he was doing hook grip for his first 2 attempts, and for his third, he realized like he couldn't hold it, so he had to go mixed grip, and he tore his bicep.
Damn.
And that was the result because he didn't train mixed grip; he trained hook grip. But because the bar differences, that's what he had to do.
Yeah.
So it's a tough situation.
Oh, yeah.
I could see being upset with the Fed because of that.
100%. Yeah, and it's like a real factor. It's like, sometimes I feel like some powerlifters are like a little bit dramatic with like bars and stuff like that. But in like a case like that, it actually is it's a huge variable. I mean, if the guy went hook, he's walking out of there just fine. So
yeah, but for the most part, there's no reason why, if you're a 400 or 500 pound squatter, you can't 400 or 500 pound squat with any bar.
Yeah. I think for deadlift, that's like really the big one. Squatting, you might prefer one thing, but the bar's going on your back and you got to squat it.
And if you're not bringing it in tight enough, like, the biggest difference is, some of the rogue bars, like they don't have the center knurling. So they're a little bit tougher to squat with if you're squatting low bar.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like if you're not locking it in that tight, like that's kind of on you.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That's got to be kind of on the lifter, but yeah, consistency always makes things a little easier. But you got to do what you got to do sometimes.
So let's dig into some of the training and stuff that you're doing. Your whole concept is PWRBLD. We have 2 of your programs on our app now, so people can kind of give it a test run and see if they like it. And when I was inputting in all the programs, it kind of had like on the volume side of things, it kind of had like a 5-3-1 vibe to it, where you're doing a lot of accessory movements.
Yeah.
You're doing a lot of the same accessory movements, for 4-week blocks, and then you're kind of rotating through. I mean, that's kind of a bodybuilding concept.
Yeah.
And so how did you come up with this? How did you put everything together?
So definitely coming from like the bodybuilding kind of start, that's always just like, I haven't been able to get away from that because it's just, I enjoy that aspect to it. And then I also feel like, having a lot of the accessory movements, if I'm doing accessories and I'm like making sure I'm not squatting my 8 sets and then like leaving, I always feel so much better. By doing like those accessory movements, I just feel so much better health-wise and just even recovery-wise. Like if I do the accessory movements, the next day I actually feel better than if I'm just squatting and leaving. So with the primary movements, it's always been like I kind of do like a DUP style. So the rep ranges are varying every week almost. Like if 1 week squats are 8s and bench is 5s and deadlift is 3s, the next week I'll kind of alternate those again, and then the next week again. So the accessory movements, they typically stay the same throughout the block. Usually each day there's like a secondary movement to the primary. So if it's like main squat day, we're doing a variation of the deadlift. On bench, it's probably competition bench and then a variation of the bench. On deadlift day, you're gonna probably do a variation of the squat before the deadlift, That's just to, again, kind of get used to squatting and deadlifting on the same day. And that's kind of, I believe, how those programs are set up that I sent you guys. And then again, like the heavier accessory work. I just feel like a lot of powerlifters, they focus too much on squat, bench, and deadlift to the point where they get beat up too quick. You know what I mean? Like longevity in powerlifting is the biggest thing. I feel like if you look at like some of the strongest people, it's because they've been training the longest. Yeah. So surviving is like one of the biggest elements to like my programming. And that's also why you'll see like a mix between like RPE and percentages.
I did notice that.
Yeah. So I like to, if you're doing something like heavy, the top sets, I want you to actually feel, you know, or take into consideration how you're feeling on that day and pick the weight accordingly. On the back downs, I try and be a little bit more conservative with the percentages, but I like to give somebody a number. That way they can almost stick to it and get the quality reps in there. So like that's where you're like really practicing and refining the movement. So yeah, it's just been like a trial and error over the years. And now I've pretty much kind of dialed in like the method and it seems to work.
Some of the guys that look like they lift at your gym, they're like top level guys. I think the one guy's name's like Dwayne.
Yeah, there's Dimitri. He's really strong. There's Debo.
That guy.
Debo.
Yeah.
Dwardley is his
exactly.
first name, yeah. So he's a national champ from last year at the juniors and 93s. And like that's a tough weight class. I mean, it was like literally down to like 3 guys and like pretty much he pulled his last deadlift and won it. And it was based on weight. Like I put in the number to make sure he was hitting the same total as the other guys, but he weighed in lighter. So he took home gold. Super strong kid. We've been working together now like a couple of years, but he's one of those kids, just natural ability. And then we just, you know, with some refining, he's just, you know, went to the top pretty much. So
and he looks great too. Like he looks the part.
He's a bodybuilder, really.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at him, you're like, that dude could jump on stage right now at any time. So he's a freak. But yeah, we have a lot of there's a lot of lifters that are like top level now. A lot of competitive lifters, and a lot of them are like very strong. Like we just had at that tested USPA nationals, like the first day it was wild. Like it was like mostly the females. 3 of them won their weight class, like the whole thing. And then the one also took home you know, second in open. She's a master. She won first. And in the open, she took home second. So, and a few others like were top 10. Yeah, pretty wild.
How do you program for them versus like some of the templates that you have? Are they different or are they following?
Same style. It's just usually like where it's like the variables that really change for me are like the volume, frequency. For the programs I sent you, I kind of focus on maybe like an intermediate level lifter.
Yeah.
Whereas like some of them, especially if they're female, the volume's probably up, frequency might be up. Like if they're, you know, intermediate, maybe somebody's squatting twice, benching 2 or 3 times, and then deadlifting once or twice. For like a advanced like female or a lower weight class lifter, I'd probably have them squatting 3 times, benching maybe 4 times, and then deadlifting twice. So
are you writing like custom programs for each person?
Yeah.
So everything's specific to them?
Yeah, if it's like a one-on-one client, everything's individualized. Okay. You know what I mean? From like obviously the frequency and volume, obviously the, you know, variations that they're using, you know what I mean? Focusing on like weaknesses, addressing it a lot of times with like whatever bench variation they might need or deadlift variation, the accessory work. Like some people like, you know, I have them do back 4 times a week because like I know that they need to do that. So yeah, once you get into the one-on-one aspect, everything's pretty much individualized, but it's the same methods. So a lot of it's just like tweaking some of the numbers, changing out some of the accessories.
Okay.
So
that's just more specific to their body type, to how they recover.
100%. Yeah, recovery is a big thing. Just how much weight, you know what I mean, they're handling. Like somebody like Debo, try and manage his like volume and frequency because one squat day it takes a full week to recover from.
Yeah.
So yeah, all that matters a lot. Staying healthy. That's again, I'm almost just trying to. Somebody like him is like holding him back so he doesn't get hurt. You know what I mean? It's tough because he's just so strong.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes you feel like if you don't put everything into your top lift for the day, that you're not doing anything to progress.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a tough thing to manage.
Oh, yeah. That's the hardest thing, I think. It's like kind of the auto-regulating of your own training. You know what I mean? That's where like having a coach comes in. You know, I mean, like I'll have a lot of my people, they send me their lifts daily, and it's like I can give them feedback, which I think helps, because sometimes, man, if you're just like out there on your own, you're always doing a little too much.
Yeah.
It's so hard not to. Like I'm telling you all these things that I tell other people, and I still make those mistakes.
Yeah.
So it's tough, that's for sure.
When you take like an intermediate lifter, like you have a really good natty bench press, right?
Yeah.
I think you just pressed 463.
463, yeah.
I mean that's phenomenal. When you take like an intermediate lifter and somebody who wants to build their bench press, let's say they bench 315. That's a kind of landmark. What's important for them to do to hit the next like 2 milestones at 365 and 405?
I think bench frequency is always big up for me. Like I have my people bench quite a bit. It's just I don't go crazy every day with the volume, like maybe 3 sets on all of those days. And over the course of the week, I mean, you have quite a bit of volume. So I think that helps a lot. That's what I notice, like a lot of my people, like even after one block, their bench tends to be like the one that really responds just from like the frequency and the volume. So that's a big thing. And then also the accessory work that I've like put emphasis on with bench. Like I think a lot of people neglect back with bench. Like on all my bench days, and I think with your programs, I'm sure I added like a few back accessories on bench day.
Yeah.
I think it's so important. Like if you have a strong back, your bench is going to respond. So, most people are just like, oh, chest. They just fucking hammer chest, flies, all these things. Like, yeah, I do those too, but I almost like do the chest accessory work just for more so like health. Like flies, just like get a stretch from like all the pressing. Like I don't really like overload like flies. Like it's literally like the last thing I do, and I do it just to like get a little stretch on the chest.
Yeah.
Back is like one of the things I focus on the most, like shoulders.
I mean, if you go into a meet and you look around and you just see everybody's back, you can almost see who's going to bench the most.
Yeah.
Just by that.
100%. And like that's one of the things I figured out. I'd be at meets when I was younger, and I'd see these dudes, these freaking Ninja Turtle shells. And I'd be like, all right, so I got to get my back bigger. And then obviously like with that, your deadlift improves, your squat improves. Like the bar's going on your back on a squat. If you have a strong back, you're going to have a stronger squat. Like especially for somebody like me, I'm like taller, longer femurs. Like there's no way around it. Like I'm going to be more forward on a squat. Like I'm going to good morning my squat. Like
it's either that or you got to get up to 300.
Yeah, exactly. So, having a strong back has allowed me to even get my squat to where it's at, which like my squat isn't by no means my best lift, but it's improved. So yeah, the accessory work, man, is definitely, again, and I see a lot of like the younger lifters in the gym now that I don't work with, they're just members, but they come in and they're strong. So like what they're doing is, it's not like it's not working, but I see them just squatting for like an hour and a half straight. And then maybe they go and deadlift a little bit and like that's it. So it's so specific. And I think some of them it's worked in the beginning because, the specificity is going to help. But then those are the same guys that end up getting a little bit banged up early, and then a lot of times like you can see them just drop off. I mean, it takes like one setback that's like a couple months and like you're demoralized and like you just give up. I've had it happen. Like people sign up with me for like a year, they have one setback and they're just like mentally they're done. So I think the accessory work just, besides keeping you healthy, it's also just like a little change of pace during the training session. It allows you to, get some hypertrophy in. Like a lot of these kids you see, they're like super strong. You're like, man, you look like a stick figure. It's just like they're so specific right now. But like, I'm like, if you add some muscle mass, man, like then you're going to be even at another level. So it continues to like bring that ceiling up as well. That's another thing I like forgot to mention with my training is like I'm always trying to like increase the ceiling of the lifter. So that way they're not just like topping out on where they're at, and I think that leads to more injuries as well. So 2 big variables.
Do you use repping reserve at all? Or you strictly use
sometimes
RPE?
Just to help explain like the programming to people, because like RPE can be such a difficult thing sometimes early on to like get it across. Like I was just having this conversation with a member the other day. I literally have like a note in my phone I copy and paste. I'm just like, I'm going to send you this, read it. It's a pretty good breakdown. But how I explain it is like almost reps in reserve. Like if they're doing RP8, I'm like, make sure you have like 2 reps in the tank ish, you know what I mean? And obviously that changes from rep work to like singles. And that's where I think it really gets confusing with people.
It does.
So it's one of those things I always just like, I'm like, let's just get started. Do your best. I'll help you when you send me your RP8 and it's a full 10. I'm gonna just say, hey, this is a 10. You know what I mean? And usually by like them feeling it, them rating it, and then me rating it, they'll get the hang of it after like a block or two. So
do you have like a coaching app where they send you stuff, or do you do it through email?
I do it pretty much all text and
Okay.
email. Just I know there's like some apps out now. I don't know. I'm just like stuck in my ways. So
Yeah.
it just, I don't know. I haven't really looked into it to that extent, but for the most part, I just like them to text me because then I just see it coming through. It allows me to respond to them quicker. Even like email. The only time I have people email is if they're probably Droid users because like the quality and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's
Damn
what
Droid
works.
users.
I know. They got to ruin everything, man.
All right, so let's dive into the deadlift. If somebody wants to build their deadlift, like what's your, like, you got to do this type stuff?
Yeah, I think deadlift, and this is like of late because originally, I mean, again, depends on the level. I hate giving the answer of like depends on like how long you've been doing it and stuff like that. They're like generic answers, but it really does. Like early on, if you're like novice to intermediate, you could probably get away with some decent volume. Maybe one main deadlift day, have like another variation day, see how that works. But after you get into like maybe like the 600 plus range, almost one heavy deadlift day every 2 weeks is what I'd honestly recommend. The other day should probably be like intermediate, like volume and intensity, maybe like 3 sets of 5, 4 sets of 4.
On deadlifts?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like keep the intensity, moderate, quality reps, and accessory work. Like, rows, pull downs, pull ups, like build your back up to be super strong. And then I also like hamstrings, just legs in general. A lot of the accessory work again, because like with deadlift, I feel like if you're healthy, it's going to almost like it's going to improve, even with like having the one main deadlift day a week where maybe you like have a heavy, top set or two and then a couple lighter back downs. Like that's always my thing is I do like a couple heavy sets, 1 or 2, and then some back downs. And I've actually been doing a lot of the back downs like variation. So deficits, pauses, because it allows you to use a lower load, but it's almost matches the same intensity that you would with heavier weight.
Right.
So it's always trying to, it's not like it's making it easier, but it's maybe a little easier on your body, but you're still putting in like the same intensity. So I think the response is the same. And that's the same with like even squatting. I've realized like doing pause reps or maybe a tempo allows me to use less weight, but I'm still like getting stronger to the point if I was using a heavier load on a competition squat. See what I mean? It's just like the less tonnage or whatever you want to call it. So I think your body responds better because it's not like getting beat down. And that's like with my deadlift, like I was stuck. Like I was 700-pound puller for like a year and a half, maybe 2 years. Like I was right around the 711 mark. And then I dropped down like frequency quite a bit to like one heavy deadlift day every 2 weeks. And then it went up to 740 within like 2-3 months.
Yeah.
So it's almost like less is more. Now there's also like variables such as like how I'm built, a little bit longer, the bar is moving a little bit further, like I low bar squat, your back's going to be more taxed with that. So there's so many things. It's probably just figuring out like the appropriate, frequency and volume most of the time, and then some of the variations that can help those sticking points.
Do you try to avoid those things in the same day, a low bar squat and a deadlift?
Yeah, I'll never low bar squat and deadlift unless it's in a meet prep and we're like 4 weeks out and less. That's the only time I'll get like that specific. And
Actually, I had a friend come in the other day, and he asked me to look at his lifts, and he had low bar squatted and deadlifted in the same day, and I drew it out in like stick figure, and I was like, "You see the difference in these movements?" He goes, "No." I was like, "Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're doing the same thing with the different bar position."
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and depending on like how much weight you're handling, like that can wear on you. Like the fatigue and recovery factor is usually underestimated there. Again, especially depending on how much weight you're moving. So like even with me, like squatting, like it fives or whatever it may be, up to six, like low sixes, and then deadlifting like sixes or more. That's just, I mean, I'm gonna need 2 weeks probably to like feel good again and have a good like strong like squat and deadlift day if I'm gonna do that. So I want to keep the frequency a little bit more consistent. So that's why if I'm low bar squatting, I'm doing probably a deadlift variation, like maybe even like RDLs or maybe like a block pull or something like that. Whereas if I'm deadlifting, I'll squat, but it's going to probably be high bar, maybe even a belt squat, safety squat bar, something that's not quite as taxing on my back. So that way I can deadlift. So yeah, that's where I think the whole programming comes in. Like, there's so many variables, and like knowing how to manipulate those and like to make it optimal for you. You know what I mean? Because it is so individual, but the same basic principles can be applied to just about everyone.
What are your like telltale signs of needing to regulate yourself?
Bar speed. That's probably like one of the biggest things. You can usually tell like movement pattern and bar speed. Like you'll notice like somebody on a squat, they're like maybe on the eccentric, they're like shaking a little bit. Usually you're probably not fully recovered. Something's up, something's tight. Muscles are like hyper contracted from a day prior, like something like, and then just like bar speed, obviously, like if you don't see that same pop that you're used to, and usually you can tell even like, that's why I have all of my clients send me like their top sets, but I also have them send me like a last working set just to kind of see bar speed and movement pattern. And that can usually, just by watching the videos without any feedback from them, I'll know kind of how they're feeling. So
you don't use the like the bar speed app or anything?
No, I've never used that. Some of my clients have it. They'll like send me the numbers. I'm like, I don't know what the hell that means. I'm like, is that good? It doesn't look good. But no, I've never done that. Just kind of just by visual. But yeah, usually those are the telltale signs. I mean, obviously, like if the lifter gives you feedback, they're like a little bit achy. That's usually another one. But I can probably tell just based on how the bar moves if you are feeling that way.
So let's say like I overshot my RPE on Monday, and my next due squat day was probably Thursday.
Yeah,
would make sense. What would you have, like, if that person knew it, right? And say, hey, I'm still sore. They knew before their training session. Would you have them do extra mobility, extra stretching, extra warming up on a Wednesday, so that way they can still complete their session, or would you try to push that session back another day?
It depends. Extra warm-ups would definitely be probably something that I would have them do. But sometimes that's just not enough. It depends on like the lifter. Like for instance, like a Debo, like some extra warming up is probably just not going to do it. He might just need the extra 24 hours or whatever it may be. So for somebody like him, we might swap days. He might have like a bench accessory day kind of the following day. I'd be like, do that.
Yeah.
And then do the squat and the deadlifts maybe on the next day. So, flip-flopping some days around can be an easy adjustment. But if somebody can, get off with like, maybe they go for a 10-minute walk beforehand, stretch a little bit longer, make sure you're fully warmed up, see how you feel, and then if you feel good enough, do it. Most of the time, you'll probably still need to adjust maybe the intensity for that day.
Right.
But that's again why I like RPE so much, is because like it's already built in. It's like go off of how you feel. So if you're still feeling Monday, adjust accordingly.
Yeah.
So getting them to do that's another story, but that's the goal.
I saw something on Elite FTS's Instagram the other day, and I think it was a Jim Wengler post, maybe like a quote from him, and it basically asked if you're pro science or pro anecdotal evidence.
Yeah.
Where do you stand on that?
Definitely anecdotal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it's just I've done it all, so that's what I'm going off of, and I've done it with other people. You know what I mean? Like other lifters. So a lot of the times, if I have a lifter, I can almost like kind of go back to somebody that I remember was similar to them in lifts, build, and can make adjustments based on that. You know what I mean? Like, obviously, like, science is like, it is what it is, but everyone's so individual. So
I have a tough time with science too.
yeah,
Because I feel like the science kind of reverse engineers
yeah,
and then says this is why that happened. But there's not enough reverse engineering happening to really be able to dictate how to do it.
mm-hmm.
And you can have two people that are built the exact same way, and
Yeah.
one person can be really good at reps, and one person can be really good at singles.
Oh yeah,
Like I was a guy that could, barely handle 405, but squat well into the 500s, no problem.
yeah,
And it's just like singles were just kind of my thing for a long time.
yeah,
And I feel like there's just too much going on to say, like, to strictly go by data. I feel like you're going to hold back. It may work for the novices, you're right, because just doing something is better than nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're trying to take somebody to an elite level, I just feel like it's just not going to work.
yeah. It's got to be individual, because it's just like you said. Like you can have two people that are built the same, and they just might be different as far as like their work capacity or like the type of muscle fiber they're made up of. You know what I mean? Like some people are just monsters with singles, and they just can't handle volume. Like that's kind of how I am. I mean, I don't know. Like if you look at like some of my rep PRs on squat, like I probably shouldn't even be able to squat like into the sixes, but like I can. I don't know. Like even deadlift, like I don't really have like the crazy rep, PRs or anything like that. It's just I could just kind of keep going up for a single.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where the science is kind of like, well, who's to say that person is the same as whoever they're basing that data on? You know what I mean? It's so individual.
The mental fortitude too.
Yeah, some people just have like. I always like make the joke in the gyms like this dude's made of something different, because like they can grind, their last warm up or what was supposed to be their last warm up, and I'll be like, oh, like I might want to call it there, and then the next one is smooth and better than the last. And to bring up Debo again, he's one of those guys. Like I've had him in the gym before. I'm like, let's maybe just call it there. And he's like, I don't know, like I feel pretty good. He's like, next one will be better. It's like, all right. And the next one is better. Like the next one moves. It shouldn't move how it moves, like based on the previous lift.
Right.
I don't know. He's just different. You know what I mean? Mentally, I don't know what he does or thinks about, but like he just has another level, and it's just that's how it is for some people.
I function like that too, and I feel like I can actually explain it. When you're warming up, like let's say somebody's top squat is 600 pounds, right? And their last warm up would be what, 550, 540, somewhere in that range. If you've already squatted that, you don't respect it.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
You're also not channeling your intensity towards that.
Yeah.
So you're just gonna let it ride, because on your worst day, if it starts to slow down, you can push through if you really need to.
Yeah.
So it's gonna look like shit. It's gonna move super slow, but that next one, I mean, you're going balls out.
Yeah,
like
that's true.
Your intensity is just so much different.
Yeah, that is true. And actually, I say that to like a lot of my lifters too. Like even on meet days, like last warm up, I'm like, opener's gonna move better, and it always does.
Yeah.
90% of the time it moves better. Yeah, that is true. I think you kind of disrespect like the weight a little bit. You're like, yeah, I've done this a million times.
Yeah.
So yeah, that does make sense. I think that's what it is a lot of the time.
Cool. All right, so I think we'll kind of wrap it up there. If I know you're good on Instagram, are you on like Twitter and that kind of stuff?
Don't really mess with Twitter. I don't even know. I had an account like 8 years ago, but yeah, just Instagram for me. A little bit of YouTube here and there, but I just like to keep it simple, man. Instagram's the easiest in my opinion.
Yeah. Guys, we do have free programs from Collin on our app, which is also free. So if you download that on iTunes or the Google Play Store, you can kind of dip into what he's doing over there at PWRBLD. And his gym is located in Conshohocken. Yep. And it's a cool gym. It's 24-hour access, so give it a try.
Appreciate it, man.